Alicia couldn't stop trembling. The moment she pushed open the mahogany doors of the penthouse suite, her world fractured into 1,000 shards. There, basking in the glow of expensive table lamps, stood her husband, renowned millionaire entrepreneur, Henry Lockwood, entangled with a mysterious woman in a shimmering red dress. Alicia's heart pounded so violently she could barely hear the gasps of shock from the two lovers. Two crucial facts hung unspoken in the air. Alicia was pregnant with Henry's child, and they had no idea she was an accomplished lawyer, ready to wield the law in her favor. The storm had only just begun. Alicia Montgomery Lockwood once believed she was living the American dream. Born in a modest neighborhood near Philadelphia, she clawed her way from scholarship law student to junior partner at the prestigious Carlton and Beckman. Her childhood was shaped not by playgrounds, but by public libraries and thick legal textbooks. If one word described Alicia, it was driven. She met Henry Lockwood at a children's education gala 4 years ago. A magnetic, self-made millionaire. Henry charmed the crowd with stories of space tech ventures and meetings with Elon Musk. Alicia wasn't impressed by the name-dropping, but by his relentless ambition. Sparks flew instantly, and a whirlwind romance followed. Within months, Henry proposed in front of the iconic love statue, complete with a flash mob and a serenade. Their lavish wedding, complete with doves and violins, seemed to seal their fairy tale status. 2 years into the marriage, Alicia was pregnant, just as she landed a career-defining environmental case. Juggling work and prenatal care, she thrived. Henry, meanwhile, expanded his empire into biotech and hospitality, becoming a business world darling. But with his rising fortune came late-night phone calls, vague answers, and emotional distance. When Alicia mentioned baby names or parenting plans, Henry brushed her off. He was no longer the man who once recited her favorite poems. Still, Alicia gave him the benefit of the doubt. Ambition came with pressure, and she'd always admired his drive. That changed when Alicia's best friend Emily, an investigative journalist, quietly mentioned spotting Henry at a Manhattan hotel bar with a woman who wasn't Alicia. Though hesitant to jump to conclusions, Alicia couldn't ignore the signs: late texts, secretive behavior, lipstick, stained napkins in his briefcase. She told herself it was business until doubt became a constant companion. As her pregnancy progressed, so did her unease. Alicia didn't confront Henry. Not yet. She needed proof. Like any good lawyer, she knew the power of evidence. What she didn't know was that soon she'd uncover more than she was prepared to face, and the truth would shatter everything. The first undeniable sign of betrayal didn't come from Henry's behavior, but from the mailbox. Though Alicia had insisted on paperless billing, a physical receipt from the Ritz-Carlton in Manhattan arrived. It detailed a luxurious 3-night stay in the presidential suite, including a couple's massage rooftop dinner for 2 and a rose-petal turn-down service. At first, Alicia tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was for clients or a corporate retreat. But she knew Henry's spending habits. He would itemize a muffin on a business report. This was different. Romantic, personal. She met Emily at a cafe, slid the receipt across the table and asked, "Does this confirm what you saw?" Emily hesitated, then admitted it didn't look good. Alicia's suspicion deepened. She added almost in a whisper, "I found lipstick on a napkin in his briefcase." "It's not my shade," Emily urged her to gather more concrete evidence before making any move. Alicia agreed. She was a lawyer. She needed an airtight case. Over the following nights, Alicia quietly audited Henry's financial statements, hotel bookings, loyalty accounts. Her findings were chilling: a pattern of secret weekend stays at a boutique hotel, under an alias H. Lund, with repeated charges for 2 guests, fighting back heartbreak and fury. Alicia reached out to a private investigator, Christine Delgado, known for her work in high-profile infidelity cases. Christine reviewed the documents and promised results. "Men like Henry get sloppy," she said. "You just have to know where to look." For the first time in weeks, Alicia felt a sense of control. This wasn't just heartbreak, it was war. And she was preparing her case, not just for herself, but for the future of her unborn child. 2 weeks later, Alicia received a cryptic phone call from Christine Delgado. The investigator's voice was barely above a whisper. "Meet me at the cafe on West 12th Street at 8 in the morning. I've got something you'll want to see." The following morning, Alicia feigned heading to the firm for an early briefing. In reality, she slipped into the inconspicuous cafe in a simple black coat and a scarf that concealed half her face. Christine was already there, sipping coffee with a serious expression. Without exchanging pleasantries, Christine opened a manila folder and revealed a series of photographs. The first few showed Henry stepping out of a sleek, black car in front of an elegant building in Midtown Manhattan. In one picture, he was holding the door for a tall brunette woman clad in a fitted red coat. Alicia leaned in closer, her heart sinking. It was the same woman in each subsequent image, the same brunette each time dressed in impeccably tailored outfits. The chemistry between them was obvious. Her arm looped through Henry's, the comfortable intimacy in their body language. Christine flipped to a photo that nearly made Alicia's stomach turn. Henry and the brunette dining in a dimly lit restaurant, their hands intertwined across the table. Another photograph captured a moment in a hotel lobby, the woman pressing herself against him. In a kiss, Alicia felt her cheeks flame with rage, sadness, and a desperate sense of betrayal. Christine cleared her throat. "Her name is Isabella Duncan. She's a high society socialite, rumored to be the daughter of a wealthy media tycoon in California. She's in New York often, but she also travels with Henry on occasion. My team has tracked their meetings. It's been going on for months." Alicia's eyes scanned the photos again, her mind racing. Henry's betrayal now had a name and a face. Isabella Duncan, the woman who'd invaded her marriage. Alicia felt tears burn at the corners of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Not here. Not now. Thank you," she whispered. "I'll need everything you have. I might need to consult you further." Back in her car, Alicia couldn't contain the flood of emotions any longer. She broke down, tears streaming down her cheeks, her trembling hands clenching the steering wheel. Was this really her life? Only a few months ago, she'd been dreaming of baby names, imagining a future where Henry would dote on their child. Now she found herself on the verge of what felt like the biggest betrayal she'd ever experienced. Throughout the following week, Alicia discovered a steely resolve she never knew she possessed. Her heartbreak, raw and agonizing, galvanized her lawyer instincts. She was determined to confront Henry, but refused to do so without the perfect timing. In her legal mind, the element of surprise was everything. To keep up appearances, she attended social gatherings with Henry. They appeared together at a gallery opening, benefiting local artists, with Henry draping a protective arm around her burgeoning baby bump. Smiling for photographers, Alicia had to restrain herself from recoiling. She played the role of the supportive wife, all the while meticulously gathering evidence and consulting with colleagues at her firm for anonymous scenarios in marital disputes. None of them suspected she was actually describing her own plight. While Alicia was forging her silent plan, Henry was blithely unaware. He continued to make half-hearted attempts at showing interest in the pregnancy, occasional texts asking about her doctor's appointments or quick glances at her growing belly. But he was more absent than ever on business trips that Alicia now knew were rendezvous with Isabella. Each time he left, Alicia's resentment grew, but so did her determination to bring this to a decisive reckoning. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Friday evening. Alicia knew Henry had planned a weekend trip to Boston to meet an investment group through Christine's intel. Alicia discovered he was actually checking into a suite at a ritzy penthouse in Manhattan. She also learned Isabella was scheduled to arrive. Alicia decided it was time. With the discreet assistance of her friend, Emily Alicia gained access to a key card for the penthouse floor, courtesy of a contact at the very hotel Henry had frequented. She felt a knot of anxiety coiling in her stomach as the elevator ascended. Part of her wanted to run to escape the heartbreak she was sure to witness, but the protective fury for her unborn child and for herself burned hotter than any fear. When the elevator doors slid open, Alicia walked down the hushed corridor, her heels clicking against the polished floors. A doorman recognized her from the keycard and nodded politely. She tried to ignore the trembling in her fingers as she slipped the card into the door. For a moment, she hesitated. What if she was making a mistake? Could she handle what lay behind this door? But her instincts, honed by years of navigating legal minefields, pushed her onward. She turned the knob and stepped inside the suite, bracing herself. The sight she encountered would become etched into her memory. Henry's shirt, partially unbuttoned arms around Isabella Duncan, who was draped in a slinky negligee. The two froze a tableau of betrayal in front of her eyes. Shock rippled across Henry's face, while Isabella's eyes widened in horror. And there Alicia stood, pregnant, resolved, and heartbroken, yet ready for war. Alicia's heart thumped violently as she took a few steps into the suite. Each second felt suspended in an excruciating silence, broken only by the subdued hum of the city outside. Her gaze flicked over the opulent surroundings, the marble floors, the gold fixtures, the half-finished bottle of vintage champagne on the coffee table. All of it a stage set for her husband's deception. Henry was the first to speak, stammering, as he pulled away from Isabella. Alicia. What are you doing here? Alicia's eyes shifted from him to the brunette, who hurriedly wrapped a silk robe around herself. I think the real question, Alicia replied, her voice surprisingly steady, is what you're doing here, with her. She emphasized the last word with cold precision. Driving home the accusation, Isabella's face paled. She stood by the couch, unsure whether to flee or to speak. Henry ran a hand through his hair, his posture betraying the panic coursing through him. It's not what it looks like, he began. But Alicia cut him off with a bitter laugh. That line is beneath you, Henry. I'd expect a better defense from a man who's supposedly a titan in the business world. She crossed her arms over her chest, gesturing to the suite. You can't possibly believe I'd accept that excuse. Henry took a step forward, desperation etched into his features. Alicia, please let me explain. He pleaded, his voice low. I never wanted to hurt you. I got caught up in something I couldn't control. Her expression hardened. Months of suspicion, heartbreak, and silent strategizing flooded her mind. You're free to explain, she said icily. But I'm not sure there's anything you can say that would make this right. Isabella, looking visibly uncomfortable, decided to speak up. Look, I didn't know you were pregnant, she muttered, glancing at Alicia's baby bump. Henry told me he said your marriage was basically over, that you two were separating her. He never mentioned a baby. Alicia let out a hollow laugh, shooting Henry a disdainful look. So that's the story you fed her, that we were over. Meanwhile, you parade me at events. Let the whole world think everything's peachy, all while you indulge in this This charade. Henry looked cornered. I was going to talk to you, he insisted, hands raised in a placating gesture. Things just got complicated. Complicated. Alicia repeated the word like it was venom in her mouth. We're married, Henry. I'm carrying our child. There's no grey area here. This is betrayal. Plain and simple. Isabella fumbled with her robe's belt and stepped back. I think I should go, she whispered as she passed Alicia. She paused. I'm sorry, truly. If I'd known. Her voice trailed off. She hurried to collect her handbag and retreated to a side door, leaving the echo of her high heels behind. As the door shut, Alicia stared at Henry, her gaze scorching. He opened his mouth to speak, but she held up a hand. Don't you have no idea how long I've known the evidence I've collected? Do you really think I'd confront you like this, without being absolutely certain? Henry's complexion turned ashen. Evidence. He glanced around as though worried someone might leap out with a camera. Alicia. This doesn't need to be a public scandal. She let out a derisive snort. The only reason I haven't made it a public scandal yet is because of our child and your potential to do the right thing. I wanted to see how far you'd go. Apparently, your betrayal knows no bounds. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. Let's handle this like adults. No lawyers, no tabloids. We can figure out an arrangement. You're stressed you're pregnant. This isn't good for your health. His attempt at concern only fueled Alicia's fury. Don't you dare feign concern for my health now, she spat. You should have thought about that before sneaking around luxury hotels and penthouses. She paused, steadying herself. I am a lawyer, Henry. Did you forget that? Or did you just assume that I'd be too distracted by morning sickness and baby clothes to notice your little escapades? He inhaled sharply, the weight of her words sinking in. Alicia, let's just sit and talk this through. I don't want to lose everything. Her eyes narrowed. Now you're worried about losing everything. Maybe you should have thought of that before jeopardizing our marriage. She pulled a folded stack of documents from her handbag. These are the receipts, credit card statements, photos I have enough to bury you in a divorce settlement if I choose to. Henry looked terrified. The shrewd businessman in him was reeling, searching for a strategy. We can negotiate. Let's keep it civil. Think about our child's future. Alicia's gaze flickered downward for a moment, resting on her stomach. A wave of sorrow coursed through her, but she channeled it into resolve. You want to talk about the child now? Henry, fine. Then here's the deal I'm leaving tonight. I'll contact you through my attorney. If you want a civil negotiation, then you'll meet my terms. If not, she shrugged. I'll see you in court. And trust me, you don't want to face me in a courtroom. Henry swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing in his throat. Are you sure we can't fix this, Alicia? He couldn't finish the sentence. The room fell silent again. She shook her head. Slowly, tears threatening to surface, but her resolve unwavering. I'm done, Henry. You made your choice. Without waiting for a response, she turned on her heel and walked out of the penthouse suite, each step echoing the finality of her decision. The moment she entered the elevator, her tears spilled over. She clutched her belly protectively, feeling the faint stir of the life growing within. Though her heart felt shattered, a new strength welled up inside her. She had faced Henry, seen his betrayal, and asserted her worth. Whatever happened next, she would not be the victim. She would fight for her child and for herself, using every bit of legal acumen she possessed, down in the hotel lobby as she stepped into what was the bustling Manhattan night. Alicia braced herself for the storm that was about to erupt. She had crossed a line of no return, and everything in her life, from her marriage to her career, from her public image to her unborn child's future, hung precariously in the balance. The news broke faster than Alicia had anticipated. Within a week, rumors spread among their social circles that Henry Lockwood might be in hot water, and Alicia Montgomery is staying at a separate residence. She hadn't expected the gossip mill to churn so quickly, but Henry was a high-profile figure in the business world, and Alicia, by extension, had been in the public eye alongside him. For the moment, mainstream tabloids hadn't picked up the story, likely because Alicia had moved with discreet precision. She was staying in a friend's luxury condominium across town, a property under Emily's name to keep the paparazzi away. Meanwhile, Alicia focused on assembling a formidable legal team. Though she was an accomplished lawyer, she understood the necessity of an external perspective for her personal case. She turned to Benjamin Hall, a senior partner at her firm who specialized in family law. She had worked with him on high-net-worth divorce cases, but never had she expected to be the client. Benjamin, a grey-haired man with a calm demeanor, welcomed her into his spacious office. Bookshelves crammed with legal tomes lined the walls and large windows overlooked the city skyline. He gestured for her to sit. "Alicia, I heard rumors, but I didn't want to believe it. I'm sorry you're going through this." She managed a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, Benjamin. I have all the evidence, financial records, photos, the works. I need your guidance on how to proceed." Benjamin tapped a pen against his notepad. "With Henry's assets, we're looking at a potentially complex settlement. He has multiple business ventures, properties, investments. We have to ensure you and your child are protected." Alicia handed over a meticulously organized folder. "I've compiled everything we need. Also, he's due to meet me through you for preliminary discussions. I'm sure he'll try to negotiate privately. I want to ensure we have the upper hand." Benjamin smiled, admiration creeping into his eyes. "Spoken like a true litigator. We'll make sure you get what you deserve." The next few days were a blur of legal paperwork, depositions and closed-door meetings. Henry attempted to contact Alicia, directly, calls, text messages, even flowers delivered to her friend's condo. She ignored them all. Her boundary was clear. Any communication would go through her lawyer. Despite her heartbreak, Alicia couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. She was fighting back, not as a victim, but as a strategist. Yet a tug of sadness lingered every time she recalled the love that had once thrived between them. Henry had been her partner, her confidant, the man she thought she'd grow old with. Now their marriage was disintegrating into a battle of spreadsheets and custody terms. At night, Alicia lay awake, cradling her swelling belly, whispering silent promises to her unborn child. "I will protect you. I will give you a life free of lies. I will be strong for us both." She reassured herself that she was doing the right thing. But the pang of loss, of what could have been, never truly faded. When the day of the first negotiation arrived, Alicia and Benjamin sat in a sleek, glass-walled conference room. Henry entered, flanked by two attorneys from a different high-powered firm. He avoided Alicia's gaze, yet she could sense his tension. Benjamin opened the meeting with a succinct summary of Alicia's demands. She sought primary custody of the child, a fair share of the marital estate, and substantial child support commensurate with Henry's wealth. Henry's legal team countered with a typical defense. They questioned the extent of Alicia's claims, tried to downplay the seriousness of the infidelity, and insinuated that Henry would provide for the child without needing to liquidate large segments of his assets. Henry finally spoke, Alicia, please, we can work out something reasonable without dragging each other through the mud. I'm willing to give you a generous settlement. But let's be civil. Civil. Alicia repeated the word, a slight tremor in her voice. She took a steady breath before continuing. You want civility now, after months of deception and betrayal. He looked momentarily chastened. I don't want a legal war. It's bad for my businesses. Bad for the child. Let's come to terms quietly. Benjamin intervened smoothly. My client will accept nothing less than full transparency about your assets and holdings. You have multiple shell companies and offshore accounts. We're prepared to subpoena everything, if needed. Henry's attorneys looked uneasy. They knew that airing out Henry's complex financial structures in court could lead to media scrutiny, potential regulatory interest, and a tarnished public image. Alicia observed Henry's reaction. His jaw tightened. She understood what he was thinking, that his carefully crafted empire could crumble if this became a public spectacle. He might lose not only money, but also credibility, investors, and possibly the trust of the boards he sat on. She leaned forward. Henry, I want what's fair. I'm not here to destroy you, but I won't be trampled, and I won't let our child be shortchanged. Their eyes finally locked. In that moment, Alicia sensed genuine remorse in Henry's eyes, as if he finally grasped the enormity of what he had done. But the moment passed quickly. The attorneys resumed their back-and-forth legal jargon, filling the room as both sides dug in their heels. By the end of the session, they hadn't reached a complete settlement, but lines had been drawn. Henry's team agreed to produce documentation of his business holdings, while Alicia's side promised confidentiality. To a certain extent, provided Henry negotiated in good faith. As everyone rose from the table, Henry lingered, taking a step toward Alicia. Look, I know I messed up. I can't change what I did. But you have to believe I love our baby. I want to be part of its life. Alicia's eyes welled with tears she refused to shed. Then prove it by doing what's best, accepting responsibility and providing for us. Without waiting for his response, she turned and left Benjamin by her side. As she walked through the corridors of the law firm, she felt the tension coursing through her veins. The confrontation was far from over. They would probably meet again to hash out more details. But Alicia felt a flicker of pride. She was steering this conflict on her terms, using every skill she'd honed in the courtroom. She was fighting for her child's future and for her own dignity. Yet destiny still had more twists to deliver. Twists that would test Alicia's resilience and force Henry to confront the true cost of his actions. In the weeks that followed, Alicia discovered that winning a legal battle was only part of the struggle. She was growing visibly pregnant, her energy levels fluctuating, and the stress of depositions was weighing on her health. Her obstetrician, Dr. Morris, urged her to minimize stress for the sake of the baby. Your blood pressure is inching higher than I'd like, Dr. Morris warned during a routine visit. Your mental and emotional well-being is crucial right now. Alicia nodded, forcing a smile. She couldn't deny the toll of sleepless nights, the anxiety humming in her chest like a live wire. If only she could wave a wand and fast forward to a resolution, but she was too deeply entangled in a legal epic that refused to slow down. Meanwhile, Henry's empire was reeling from whispers of personal scandal. Though Alicia had maintained confidentiality in her negotiations, gossip seeped into the business world. Investors became skittish, and board members demanded explanations behind closed doors. Isabella Duncan, whose name had cropped up in certain circles, had all but disappeared from Henry's life. Distancing herself from the drama, Henry scrambled to protect his image, even attempting charitable gestures to distract from the rumors. But a crisis erupted when a major investor pulled out of one of Henry's tech ventures, citing instability in leadership. The blow threatened to cascade into a meltdown of other deals. In a panic, Henry petitioned Alicia to expedite the settlement, hoping to squash the scandal once and for all. Benjamin Hall, however, refused to be rushed. "We won't sacrifice Alicia's interests just to accommodate Henry's business timeline," he said firmly. While Alicia appreciated Benjamin's steadfastness, she couldn't deny a creeping guilt. Despite Henry's betrayal, she never wanted to see his entire empire crumble, not just for him, but also for the financial stability that might one day benefit their child conflicted. She considered approaching him privately, but every time she recalled his deceit, a cold anger cooled her fleeting compassion. Then fate dealt Alicia a frightening blow halfway through her pregnancy. She collapsed at home with severe abdominal pain. Emily rushed her to the hospital, where doctors diagnosed her with preterm labor symptoms. For a tense 24 hours, Alicia lay in a hospital bed, hooked to IV drips and fetal monitors. The beeping machines and sterile environment sent waves of panic through her. She couldn't lose her baby. She just couldn't. At the hospital, Henry arrived in a rush, eyes filled with genuine concern. It was the first time they'd been alone together since the confrontation. He stood by her bedside, uncharacteristically quiet fear etched into his features. "Alicia," he whispered, voice hoarse, "is everything you?" She took a trembling breath. "The doctors say I need rest and minimal stress. They think the baby will be okay, but I have to be careful." Her voice quivered. Seeing Henry's raw emotion tugged at her heartstrings in a way she wasn't prepared for. He nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. "Whatever you need, I'm here," he said. "I know I messed up. I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. But I'm begging you don't shut me out when it comes to the baby." Alicia exhaled. "Weary, I don't want to shut you out, Henry. But you made choices that endangered everything, including my health and peace of mind. It's not just about me. It's about our child." A troubled silence stretched between them before Henry spoke again. "I'm ready to finalize this settlement in a way that's fair to you. I'll cooperate fully. I've already spoken to my attorneys. Let's avoid further turmoil for the baby's sake." She studied his face, searching for deception. This time she found only earnestness and regret. Maybe she thought it was time to move forward. Dwelling on betrayal wouldn't help her child, especially now that her health was at risk. Over the next few days, Henry indeed cooperated. He provided full disclosure of his finances, signed an agreement to fund a trust for the child, and outlined a co-parenting plan that gave Alicia primary custody while granting him visitation rights. Alicia, on Benjamin's advice, requested a generous settlement that secured her lifestyle and the child's future, including educational funds and living expenses. Henry, to Alicia's surprise, agreed without much resistance. The process was still emotionally fraught, but a semblance of civility began to form. Alicia remained cautious. She didn't interpret Henry's remorse as an automatic pass for reconciliation. She didn't trust him that easily. However, the threat of a public court battle was dissolving, replaced by mediated negotiations that seemed likely to conclude in a legally binding settlement. During one of her final hospital checkups before discharge, Alicia found herself alone with Henry again. He stood at the window, gazing at the hospital parking lot below. "I know an apology isn't enough," he began softly. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but for what it's worth, I'm sorry. I was stupid. Selfish. I risked everything." Alicia swallowed hard, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. "I appreciate that, but it'll take a long time for me to process all of this. Right now, my priority is the baby, and to make sure I stay healthy enough to bring this child into the world." Henry nodded, blinking back tears of his own. "Whatever happens between us, I hope someday we can be cordial. For the child's sake." She offered a faint smile, still guarded, but not unkind. "Let's focus on ensuring our child has the best life possible. One step at a time, Henry." It was an unspoken truce, a fragile peace in the aftermath of betrayal, yet Alicia remained vigilant. She knew life rarely proceeded smoothly after such fractures. There were still many questions about Henry's future, her own emotional journey, and whether she could truly co-parent with a man who had broken her heart so completely. Little did she know another storm was brewing, one that would test their newly forged civility to the brink and force Alicia to decide whether she could ever truly move on, or if she'd need to strike once more with the full force of the law. Summer approached, and Alicia's belly rounded with the steady progress of her pregnancy. The legal settlement was nearly complete, pending a final signature. Henry's lawyers had drafted the documents, and Alicia had meticulously reviewed them, with Benjamin tense negotiations finally yielded terms both parties could accept. Alicia would retain primary custody, receive a sizable settlement and monthly support, and Henry would fund a trust for the baby. She in turn agreed to a confidentiality clause that prevented her from publicly discussing Henry's infidelity or the details of the settlement. Despite the progress, Alicia couldn't shake an inexplicable unease. The entire fiasco had taught her never to let her guard down. She felt a nagging instinct that something else lurked beneath Henry's desperation to finalize the deal quickly. Or maybe she was just traumatized by the months of betrayal. One evening, as Alicia was packing her legal briefs at the office, her phone buzzed with a notification. An email from an unfamiliar address, email protected. The subject line read, "Urgent intel on Henry Lockwood." Frowning, Alicia opened it. The body of the email was brief. "I have information regarding your husband's business dealings that may significantly affect your settlement and your future. This is not a scam. Meet me at the Redwood Coffee House at 7 p.m. tomorrow if you want to protect your interests. Come alone." She stared at the screen, her pulse quickening. Could this be a trap? Or was there truth to it? Her instincts told her to ignore it or pass it to Benjamin. But curiosity and her legal training overruled her caution. If Henry had hidden assets or was involved in something that might void their settlement, she needed to know. The next evening, Alicia headed to Redwood Coffee House, a small, dimly lit cafe away from the city's bustle. She arrived a few minutes early, scanning the patrons. None looked particularly suspicious, just a couple of students, a man typing furiously on a laptop, and an older woman sipping tea. She chose a table near the back, taking a seat where she could see the door. Anxiety churned in her stomach. She rubbed a hand over her baby bump, feeling protective. After a few minutes, a middle-aged man in a rumpled suit approached. He looked exhausted with shadows under his eyes. "Mrs. Lockwood?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "Yes. Who are you?" He took a seat, looking around nervously. "My name is Patrick Larson. I used to work as a financial analyst for one of Henry's shell companies. I was terminated last month without cause." His gaze flicked to the coffee shop's entrance again, as though someone might burst in at any moment. "I have proof that Henry Lockwood has been laundering money through offshore accounts and funneling illegal funds into some of his projects." Alicia's heart lurched. "That's a serious accusation," she said, keeping her voice low. Larson swallowed sweat beading on his forehead. "I wouldn't be here if I didn't have solid evidence. Henry's not just a cheat in his marriage. He's been manipulating market deals and shifting funds to avoid taxes. He's also been bribing officials to expedite permits for his real estate developments. Alicia felt a cold wave wash over her. If Henry was involved in criminal activity, it could change everything. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked cautiously. "Because I got fired for questioning some suspicious transactions," Larson admitted. "When I tried to push back, I received threats. I realized I was a scapegoat. But I made copies of the documents before they could wipe the servers." He reached into his battered briefcase, pulling out a slim USB drive. "The evidence is here, encrypted. I want your help. If you and your legal team expose him, maybe it'll keep him from retaliating against me. I can't go to the authorities alone. I don't have the resources to fight Henry Lockwood in court." Alicia's mind whirled. She remembered Henry's frantic push to wrap up the settlement. Was it possible he knew a storm of criminal charges might be on the horizon and wanted to protect his personal fortune first? If so, her child's future might be entangled in a web of legal nightmares. She kept her composure, reaching for the USB cautiously. "I'll need to verify this information," she said. "If it's valid, I'll decide how to proceed with my legal team." Larson nodded relief, mingling with apprehension. "Thank you. Just be careful. Henry has powerful connections. He won't go down without a fight." Alicia stood, pocketing the USB. Her thoughts raced as she left the coffee shop, a swirl of conflicting emotions. On one hand, she felt anger and betrayal. Henry's moral bankruptcy might run far deeper than she ever suspected. On the other, she felt fear. Exposing Henry's crimes could drag her into a dangerous battleground, risking her pregnancy and possibly her safety. Later that night, she called Benjamin, outlining what she'd learned without naming Larson. He advised caution, recommending she examine the documents and, if credible, plan their next steps carefully. "We can't allow your child's future to be tied up in legal chaos if Henry goes down for this," Benjamin warned. "We need a strategy that ensures your security, both financial and personal." As she tried to sleep, Alicia cradled her belly, wondering how she had gone from expecting a blissful married life to facing a potential criminal scandal. She vowed to protect her baby above all else. If that meant toppling Henry's empire, so be it. Her only fear was what he might do. When cornered, people backed against the wall. Especially wealthy, powerful ones rarely went quietly. She drifted off into a restless slumber, haunted by images of courtroom battles, police raids, and a baby caught in the crossfire. Little did she know the next set of events would force her to push her legal acumen to its utmost limit and test her courage in ways she never imagined. Alicia spent the next few days scrutinizing the documents on Larson's USB. She enlisted the help of a trusted forensic accountant from her firm, discreetly ensuring no one outside her tight circle knew what she was doing. The findings were worse than she anticipated. Forged invoices, suspicious wire transfers to accounts in the Cayman Islands, bribery correspondences with local officials. If any of it leaked publicly, Henry wouldn't just face a civil lawsuit, he could face criminal charges and potential prison time. Sitting in her office late one evening, Alicia stared at the lines of incriminating data on her screen. A swirl of emotions, anger, sadness, guilt danced inside her. She had vowed to protect her baby's future, and that future was tied to Henry, whether she liked it or not. Yet letting Henry skate by with illegal activities contradicted everything she believed in as a lawyer. She dialed Benjamin, who picked up on the second ring. "This is heavier than I expected," she told him. "If we expose this, Henry's empire collapses. But if we keep silent, I'll be complicit in covering up a crime." Benjamin's sigh was audible through the phone. "It's a moral and legal dilemma. If you turn over these documents to the authorities, Henry could face indictment, and your settlement might be frozen in a criminal investigation. On the other hand, if the truth comes out later, and it's discovered you knew your credibility and career could be at risk. Alicia closed her eyes. I won't risk my integrity or the safety of my child. We need to approach Henry with this evidence. Give him a chance to come clean. Maybe strike a plea deal or something similar. Benjamin agreed, but be prepared. He might react badly. The following day, Alicia requested a private meeting with Henry. No attorneys, just the two of them. Henry reluctantly agreed to meet at the firm's conference room after hours. The setting felt eerie. Lights dimmed the rest of the office, mostly empty. Henry arrived in a sleek black suit, looking tired and tense. Alicia could see the toll the scandal rumors and the near-finalized divorce had taken on him. She held up a stack of printed documents. I know what you've been doing with your businesses. Henry, she said softly, trying to maintain composure. The offshore accounts, the bribes, the fraud. I have proof. His eyes went wide, panic flooding his expression. He grabbed a chair as though his legs might give out. How did you? Doesn't matter, she replied. What matters is you're standing on the edge of a cliff. If this goes public, you could lose everything, maybe your freedom too. Henry's breathing quickened. He looked at Alicia pleadingly. You can't do this. You're my wife. She almost laughed at the absurdity. Am I? After you betrayed me with another woman, after you put me in this position, don't you dare play that card. He swallowed hard. Alicia, think about our baby. If I go to prison, how does that help you? How does that help the child? If my assets are seized, there'll be nothing left. She bit her lip. He was right in a way. Their child's financial security would be jeopardized. But Alicia also knew letting him continue his criminal operations was untenable. I can't just bury this. Henry, she said, I took an oath as a lawyer, and I can't compromise my integrity. But I don't want to see my child's father in prison either. He ran a shaky hand through his hair. Then help me. There must be a way out. Alicia inhaled deeply. We go to the authorities voluntarily. You'll turn over everything, cooperate with an investigation, and in exchange, you might get a reduced sentence or probation. If you strike a deal, I'll push to ensure the trust for our child is protected from seizure. But you have to act fast before the feds come knocking on their own. Henry sank into the chair, face pale and haggard. Voluntarily, he whispered, This will ruin me. She set her jaw. You ruined yourself. Henry, at least this way, you might salvage something. Our child deserves a father who isn't on the run or indicted with no plan in place. For several agonizing minutes, Henry stared at the documents, tears edging into his eyes. Finally he nodded, shoulders slumped in defeat. I'll do it, he said, his voice barely audible. For the baby. And for you. Even if you never forgive me. Alicia felt a surge of conflicting emotions, relief, sorrow, even pity. She placed a hand on her belly. I can't promise anything about forgiveness, but you're doing the right thing now. The next week was a blur of lawyers' negotiations and tense discussions with federal authorities. Henry's businesses entered damage control, shutting down questionable projects, dissolving certain shell companies. Alicia's attorneys worked tirelessly to protect the trust for the baby, ensuring any settlement for Alicia remained out of reach from civil forfeiture actions. Despite the chaos, Alicia felt an odd sense of closure forming. She had fought for her dignity, exposed Henry's affair, and now she was taking a stand against his criminal actions. She still harbored anger and heartbreak, but she also felt a measure of pride in handling an impossible situation with moral clarity. Finally, the day came when Henry officially turned himself in, accompanied by his high-powered defense team. Though no formal charges were yet filed, the Department of Justice began an investigation. Alicia stood by watching as Henry gave a statement, tears of frustration and shame streaking his cheeks. She didn't speak to him afterward, only watching from across the room. Their eyes met for one long moment. There was regret there, and maybe a touch of gratitude. Alicia gave a single nod, an unspoken acknowledgement of everything they'd been through. Then she turned and walked away, her pregnancy reminding her that a new chapter lay ahead, one in which she'd raise a child without illusions about her marriage. As she stepped outside into the crisp air, she felt the first twinge of a contraction. But instead of fear, she felt an overwhelming determination to welcome her child into a life free of secrets and lies. Whatever the future held for Henry, Alicia knew one thing for certain. She would never again be silenced or betrayed. She had found her strength as a lawyer, a mother-to-be, and, most importantly, as a woman who refused to be broken. 2 months later, Alicia gave birth to a baby boy, Ethan Montgomery Lockwood. She chose to give him both surnames, a nod to the complicated lineage he bore, and a statement that he belonged to no one but himself in the end. The delivery wasn't without its challenges. Alicia's blood pressure spiked during labor, necessitating an emergency C-section. But when she finally heard Ethan's first cries, a wave of indescribable love and relief washed over her. Henry, out on bail and awaiting the results of the DOJ investigation, arrived at the hospital in time to see his newborn son Alicia, allowed him a brief visit supervised by her mother, who hovered protectively. He cradled Ethan with trembling arms, tears slipping down his cheeks. "He's perfect, Henry," whispered. Alicia, groggy from anesthesia and exhaustion, felt a pang of sadness. Once upon a time, she'd imagined this moment as a blissful shared milestone in a strong marriage. Now it was tinged with heartbreak and uncertainty. Yet she couldn't deny Henry's genuine love for their child. She chose compassion in that fleeting moment, offering a small smile before the nurse ushered Henry out. Over the next few weeks, Alicia settled into a new routine as a single mother. She moved into a townhouse near her firm one, large enough for Ethan to grow in comfortably. Her settlement, along with the protected trust, ensured financial stability. She was grateful. But money didn't erase the echoes of betrayal or the image of Henry holding another woman in a penthouse suite. Henry's legal battles intensified. The DOJ formally charged him with fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Leaks to the press ensured that Henry Lockwood's downfall became national news. Journalists and paparazzi camped outside Alicia's townhouse for a glimpse of the estranged wife, but she kept a low profile, refusing interviews and focusing solely on Ethan's welfare. In a strange twist, Henry's cooperation with authorities earned him a plea deal, reducing the severity of his charges in exchange for testifying against other, more prominent players in his illicit network. He faced potential prison time, though how long remained uncertain. Alicia watched from a distance, her role in exposing his crimes kept confidential at her firm's insistence. She felt no desire to publicly claim credit. She had done her part, and that was enough. One cool autumn morning, she received a call from Henry's attorney. Henry wanted to see her and Ethan one last time before his sentencing hearing. Alicia's first instinct was to refuse. She wanted to shield Ethan from the chaos. But after much reflection, she decided it might be best for their child to know someday that she had tried to foster a connection with his father, despite everything. She dressed Ethan warmly and arrived at a visitation room in a downtown legal office. Henry was there, looking thinner, his once proud posture sagging under the weight of pending incarceration. The moment he saw Ethan in Alicia's arms, his face lit with a sad, desperate hope. "Hi, buddy," he whispered, extending a hand for the baby to grab. Alicia stood back, letting Henry hold Ethan carefully, her arms folded protectively. After a few moments, Henry cleared his throat. "Alicia," he began, voice hushed. "I'm sorry for everything I know. It's too late, and I don't expect your forgiveness. But I want you to know, I never stopped caring. My own greed and stupidity overshadowed that, but I hope someday Ethan can see me differently." She swallowed tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "I'm raising him with the truth," she replied softly. "But I won't demonize you. You'll have the chance to earn your place in his life if you stay clean and honest." Henry nodded, emotions choking him. He gently returned Ethan to Alicia's arms. "I will," he promised, voice thick. He looked at Alicia with a shattered expression. "You're an amazing woman, Alicia. You always were. I wish I realized sooner how much I stood to lose." She offered no reassurance, just a silent nod. Words felt inadequate. What lay between them was beyond simple apology or regret. In the weeks that followed, Henry was sentenced to several years in a low-security facility, with the possibility of parole for good behavior. The media eventually lost interest as other scandals took center stage. Alicia, meanwhile, thrived at her firm, quickly ascending to a more senior role thanks to her competence and fortitude. She balanced motherhood with her career, relying on supportive friends like Emily and the unwavering love of her own family. Every so often, Alicia reflected on the day she walked in on Henry and his mistress, recalling the adrenaline surge and heartbreak that had changed her life forever. From that moment of devastating betrayal, she had forged a new path, one where she refused to be a helpless victim. Her child grew each day, healthy and cherished, a testament to her resilience. She had faced the storms of infidelity, legal wars, and the revelation of Henry's crimes, and she had emerged stronger, a mother and a lawyer who stood by her principles. In the end, Alicia realized that love, honesty, and justice weren't lofty ideals reserved for the courtroom. They were guiding forces she would carry into every aspect of her life. And so, with Ethan's tiny hand wrapped around her finger, she stepped boldly into a future, shaped by her own courage and unwavering sense of self-worth. Thank you for joining Alicia's journey, a tale of betrayal, resilience, and an unbreakable spirit. From the moment she discovered her millionaire husband's hidden affair to the shocking revelations of crime and corruption, Alicia's unwavering commitment to justice and her unborn child took center stage. Through heartbreak and legal showdowns, she fought relentlessly, proving that no matter how powerful, the adversary, truth and courage can prevail. If you found inspiration in Alicia's story, or if her tenacity resonated with you, we invite you to become part of our community. Hit the like button, share this video with friends and family who might need a dose of real-life drama and empowerment. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories like this one. Together we can celebrate resilience, advocate for justice, and find strength in the face of life's most challenging storms.